All right, I'm Weglarz and Scott Myerson here in the Linden State Weather Center, and we are doing the night time update for Hurricane Sandy and its impacts here on the Northeast. So our confidence rating is at 90% right now. We're 90% confident that we will have some sort of impact here in the Northeast. We're still working out the exact location. The miles are still at a little bit of discrepancy, but we are pretty much starting to make landfall Tuesday afternoon through Tuesday night. And again, Miles is still working out exact location and strength here. So potential impacts, we have a wide variety of them, Scott. We'll go through them right now.
Yes, so potential impacts, assuming this actually hits us,
Hopefully.
we should prepare for the worst. And, just some to think about. Okay, so some major coastal flooding, beach erosion, widespread long duration power outages, major wind damage, what I personally think is going to be the big story with this one. And then some flash and real flooding.
You can't rule out any of these two. You have to be prepared for all of them, especially in the shoreline too, in parts of Connecticut, Long Island, New Jersey, New York. Beach erosion is pretty strong in some cases, so you just want to be careful when this storm hits here. So satellite Hurricane Sandy, it has gone through eyeball replacement cycle the last couple of hours here, the last 12 hours after it emerged from Cuba. We really haven't found an eyeball. Actually, just the right of that giant red blotch you see there would be the eye, if I'm not mistaken there. We're looking at water vapor too, also looked like that. So going on to the forecast, a 5-day forecast. So what do you make of this one, Scott?
Okay, so Sandy is currently a Category 2 hurricane over the Bahamas. As it makes its way northward along the east coast, it should be in the weekend as it makes its way into cooler waters, and it's when it begins to phase with the other jet stream.
And we go into our forecast models, and I think it's a little bit interesting here. Scott and I were looking at the GFS, the red line there you see does a nice little hook into Long Island and another hook through eastern Connecticut, central Massachusetts, back into New Hampshire and Vermont. And that's really the one we're looking at right now. The blue line I see there is a GFDO, and that's one the Hurricane Center has been looking at. It looks like it's phasing a little too early, though. In the North American model, the pink one down the bottom left of your screen, that one we'll continue to watch out for. It gets pretty accurate within 24, 48 hours. After that, it doesn't really do too much. So the GFS Ensemble models, Scott, you're taking is a lot, but...
Yes. Okay, so the GFS has 20 Ensemble members. Each color line represents one member. We showed this yesterday, and these lines were a little over the place. A few of them were showing LSC. Now, most, if not all of them, are showing hits as one of the solutions. As we get closer to the event, the line should start to get closer, and we should be able to pinpoint which city get the greatest impact.
All right, we'll go on to our GFS model runs here, and this is at 114. And you see the storm looks like it's going out to sea. It's really not. It's 948 millibars. We're noticing, some cooler air coming into the core, and to point out more or less is that these storms have a colder core as opposed to a warmer core, usually like a hurricane or a tropical storm would have. So you do see that blue wraparound. It looks like we may have some snow back to the edge towards Pennsylvania, parts of New York. Maybe that's still a big if we're looking at, but certainly not farther north like Connecticut, Massachusetts. We're not going to see too much snow there. And the next 120 hour, you can see it's getting a little bit closer, 943 millibars. It's definitely getting stronger. You can notice the wind fields and the isobars are getting pretty tight. And it makes landfall all across the Long Island, New Jersey, and parts of New York City. And that's where we're going to see that hook back into Connecticut over the next couple of hours in the forecast run. And on the CMC, Scott, what do you make of this one?
Okay, so actually the CMC, it looks very identical to the GFS. Not much to really add to this frame.
And again, the GFS and the CMC were going hand in hand, and really, adding this. So this is at 72 hours, the ECMWF, otherwise known as the Euro, and this starts off, this is a little bit of a quicker run. I think we were looking at, before. The phasing, though, is a little bit different here. Starts off as a pretty good system, still tropical, still that warmer core. As it goes on, next one, Scott, and this is where it starts getting a little bit interesting here.
Okay, so as you can see, the phasing occurs earlier than the previous model runs, and so this will actually be a track more towards New Jersey, and it will make its way inland to Pennsylvania.
And you notice the colder core we talked about earlier really starts to pop up here, and then by the 120-hour run, we noticed that basically this comes into parts of Virginia and the Delaware Bay, as opposed to farther up north like the GFS has. And this is really where we're having that difficulty deciding where exactly this will land. And we use the ensemble members really to differentiate basically.
Okay. Before you move, as you can see, it's sort of expanding the center. So the wind field's expanding as it loses its tropical characteristics, and because of this, even though it makes its way into Virginia or New Jersey, still going to feel the effects all the way up to northern Maine, largely due to a 1030 high pressure system in eastern Canada.
And that's our blocking effect, which really is steering this one in.
Yes.
And another thing to point to, the storm as this expands can anywhere between, I was hearing 500 miles in diameter. So this is not going to be a small storm by any means here. And we go on to everyone's favorite, the winds and the rain. 6-hour rainfall total.
Okay, so as this shows, it's kind of showing all the rainfall sort of collapsing to one side of the storm. This is clear indication that this is going through post-tropical cycle. It's starting to lose its tropical characteristics due to colder water, and I think this is indicating most of the rainfall should fall the southeastern side of the storm. In this case, Long Island and New Jersey would see most of the rain, while other areas such as Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire,
Connecticut,
Vermont,
even.
yes, wouldn't see as much rain.
But on the other side here, we have the winds, and this is where it gets a little even more interesting.
Yes.
The surface winds, Scott can, certainly vouch for this. This is Tuesday, October 30th, so as it makes landfall, you notice there's lavenders and those purples off into the eastern parts of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut are the 120 kilometers per hour, which equates to about 75 miles per hour. So we'll get very strong winds. Scott, you can say whatever you want with this. This is pretty...
there's a pretty wide field of strong winds, and as this makes its way further on shore, this wind field should actually expand more as it loses its tropical characteristics. I personally think the winds are going to be the biggest impact for most cities that don't see the rainfall. So.
And there's still some stronger winds, for the GFS to point out 5 days away. Intensities can be a huge issue for most of these models to really pinpoint at this time. There's still a lot of time to go here before the storm, lands. So, we're not telling people, to go tails between their legs and, run and, get really scared. But this is time to be aware. Quite frankly, because, we have 95% of the ensemble is pointing this way. So it's going to be, this is an eye-opener, more or less, Scott. Anything else you want to add to this?
Well, yes, again, to the coastal flooding beach erosion. It's a very deep storm. This shows about 949 millibars. So it's going to be really pushing the high tide waves up against the coastline, and we will have a full moon in that.
Astronomical sides are always good.
So coastal flooding, houses along beaches should definitely prepare for some serious.
And those of you again along parts of Long Island, southern Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New Jersey, you need to be really cautious for the track of the storm. Really keep an eye on that. Any of these states should really be keeping an eye on this. But most in particular these areas, primarily due to the fact that we have very high waves, which can easily do worse than what Irene did last year, and if not, do even more damage to your homes and the beaches that have just been repaired that are going to push back from Irene. So a lot of stuff to keep out an eye on for here. New Jersey, New York, a lot of rain from this, and you go north and east, you go in parts of Mass, you get those winds that it's going to be wreaks havoc on trees and power lines. So lots to look out for here.
And also, the winds I expect at least about 35 miles an hour, any or higher should last several days, as this storm is going to take its sweet time pulling out of the area.
And it should stall out too. So this is the nighttime update. We'll have more updates as the GFS members come in and more models start to give us some more information here. But with that, I'm Eric Weglarz and Andrew. No, I'm sorry, not Andrew James. Andrew James can be with us tonight. Scott Myerson. I apologize once again. Saying so long from Wednesday with us, and we'll have another update sometime tomorrow.
Goodbye.